Bonjour. Aujourd'hui, nous vous présentons l'île de la Réunion. First, Rocha will give a few main facts. Then, Kenneth presents a history, Kimberly the religion and traditions, and I the regional food pattern. Rocio goes on to discuss the social justice issues before Kenneth comes to the conclusion.
Hello, my name is Rocio Lara, and I will be talking about where on the map La Reunion is actually located in. It is located on the Mascaner Islands in the Indian Ocean, which is east of Madagascar and southwest of Mauritius. Right here, I included a picture of where exactly on the map you can find the island, as well as a picture of the flag of the island. So the island's climate is actually very hot and a tropical climate. And due to the island and its location on where it is on the map, the weather never drops below 75. It rarely does. Through the months of May through October, it tends to be really dry and it's a little bit more humid during November and March. During the summer, it reaches temperatures of up to 86 degrees with rain. And during the winter, it stays mostly at a 65 to 70, 79-degree weather. That's usually as like it won't go below, it rarely will go below or under 75 degrees though. Some of the island's residents will are from mainly originated from France, India, China, Madagascar, and there's about 859,000 residents living there today. Estimate the first settlers were actually French, and they were later joined along with incoming slaves from Africa and Madagascar, and later a lot of people from India and residents from the New Zealand coast started moving into the island. Regardless of the descents of where the people immigrated from to the island, they're known as Malabars. I hope I pronounced it correctly. 25 of their population is white, with Indians accounting for at least 25%, and those with Chinese ancestry make up 3% of the island. Sorry. So the language, the official language of the island is French, the same French that's written and spoken in metropolitan France, with a little bit of people that actually speak Creole.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the history behind La Reunion. Even though La Reunion is a relatively newer country, it still has quite the storied history behind it. La Reunion is currently a department of France, but it may surprise you to know that it was originally discovered by the Portuguese in 1513. Now, even before the French settled it, when they first came across the island, they originally just used it as a way to exile mutineers or people who committed crimes. The first French settlers actually arrived in 1665. What lured the settlers there was a prospect of being able to farm coffee and sugar. So why use it to exile mutineers if there's actually value to the land? La Reunion actually has a very interesting history of occupancy. Now, the French owned the territory for a very long time, but the British actually took control in 1810. They had control over it for 5 years, from 1810 to 1815. Eventually, the French gained back control of the island, and La Reunion officially became a French colony in 1946. There's quite a bit of naming history actually behind La Reunion. When it was first settled by the French, it was originally called Bourbon, and that name was to honor the fall of the House of Bourbon during the French Revolution. Eventually, it was renamed back to Reunion in the 18th century. Now, there's quite a bit of economic history behind La Reunion. I talked about earlier how the crops of coffee and sugar were very important and what lured the French to La Réunion. Well, there were also very prominent shipping routes right near La Réunion, and this allowed for trades to boom from Europe and Asia, and this did wonders for the economy. Now, those are some of the positives, but there were actually pretty prominent negatives as well. With mass farming, they needed slave labor, and huge amount of slave population was brought to the island. Eventually, later on, the economy got devastated because the price of sugar had bottomed out. Coincidentally, a lot of the slaves there eventually became citizens way later on, and this is what led to some of the diversity in La Reunion. Now, La Reunion has a very interesting history, some good, some bad, but all of it is what led to for La Reunion to become the amazing country that it is today.
People of La Reunion, the population of the Reunies, are of mixed descendants such as African, European, and South Asian. They are full citizens of France. Creoles are those who were born on the island regardless of ethnic identity, which is a vast majority of the population. First of African and Malagasy slaves lost their cultural links, and so they were subject to acculturation to the island. The people of Indian origin constitute about 30% of the population of the island. The Tamil descendants were able to maintain their ancestral beliefs and patterns of behavior throughout the New Age. Just over 40,000 individuals live in La Reunion who identify as Chinese. Few Chinese people remain who have been able to preserve their ancestral beliefs and language after many Chinese citizens converted to Christianity. The Muslim population has also been able to preserve their cultural and religion. The earliest people to be born in La Reunion have some Malagasy ancestry. Local French feel differently compared to the mainland French despite being close neighbors, the two groups come from quite distinct cultural realms. Religion. La Reunion serves as an example of how many religions and civilizations can coexist peacefully in a small area. 86% of the people practice Roman Catholicism, making it the most common religion on the island. The earliest settlers established Christianity on the island. Hindu rituals are practiced in Tamil temples among the Malabar community that is made up of immigrants from India. Despite having 25,000 members, the Muslim community maintains a high level of secrecy despite the muezzins call being loud in the cities where the mosques are situated, the most notable of which is the majestic Nur-e-Islam Mosque. Even though the Chinese population is primarily Catholic, there are also adherents who congregate in the temples of Saint Denis and Saint Pierre to worship a religion that combines Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism under the watchful eye of Guandi. Catholic Christians may be found among all groups of Reunionese Creole population. Enjoy the numerous influences that shaped La Reunion culture. The locals gather on the 20th of each year. Firewalking. A firewalking performance is held at the island in December and January. The firewalks, which are done in honor of Hindu deity Draupadi, sometimes includes parades, prayers, and offerings. Chinese New Year. The Chinese calendar marks the start of the Spring Festival between January 21st and February 19th, the first day of the lunar year. Families get together on New Year's Eve to honor ancestors and enjoy a feast. Each, of course, has a special significance. The Tamil people welcome the new year with festivities. They commemorate both Vishnu's reincarnation as the fish, Matsya, and the day the creator deity Brahm started to construct cosmos. Guandi, this extravagant event that takes place over the course of 2 days consists of dancing, prayer, offerings, and tastes of delectable Chinese cuisine during the festival of Guanding, a deity fighter from Chinese mythology. The Tamil Indian celebration of Deepavali, often called Diwali or Deepavali, is observed across the world. Deepa means light, Avali means line. Followers participate in a procession at night while also lighting a lantern in their home.
The vanilla arrived 1821 at La Réunion. The orchid, originated in Mexico, grew well and flowered, but formed no fruit for 20 years due to the lack of pollinators. It was here where the hand pollination technique of vanilla, the Albius method, was discovered by the 12-year-old slave Edmond Albius. This helped to establish a flourishing export business of the Bourbon vanilla, but they failed to protect it as its own brand. To ensure greater social justice, in 2021, the European Union awarded it with a protected seal, Vanille de l'Île de la Réunion. A local crop is sugarcane, and therefore 3 different kinds of rum. Common is rhum arrangé, which means that fruits and spices are soaked in rum for weeks, but also the Dudu beer and the tea punch, which consists rum, lime, and cane sugar. Due to the volcanic land and tropical climate, a huge variety of exotic fruits, vegetables, and roots are available. The diversity of cultures is reflected in the Creole cuisine. As an appetizer, you will find samosas, stuffed with meat, fish, vegetables, or cheese, but also bouchon, which are steamed meatballs of pork or chicken surrounded by dough and served warm with soy sauce and kombava. And we have bonbon piment, a roll of caper peas and lentils flavored with chili, coriander, turmeric, or cumin. This goes along with piment, which is a general term for a spicy red sauce. The correct way to eat most main dishes is to put rice pure or sambrocal, which means flavored with turmeric, on the plate first. Then you would add grains and finally the curry, masale, or rougail on top. Grains consist of white beans, lentils, fresh peas, or capers, and are cooked with turmeric and onions. Curry is a stew of sauteed tomato, onion, garlic, pieces of chicken, pork, sausage, fish, squid, jackfruit, or shellfish. A sauce of ginger and turmeric is added too. Masale is a spice blend and common with goat, but also other meats are possible. Rougail, as a hot dish, is a stew too, but contains only turmeric as a spice and no tomatoes. The preparation of meat, poultry, and seafood, which are cut into pieces, sauteed, and then cooked in a garnish of onion, garlic, turmeric, salt, and pepper, is versatile. To spice the dishes up, achar and rougail are served separately. Achar is a coleslaw made from spiced vegetables like carrots, green beans, cucumbers, and green mangoes. It is infused with a vinegar oil sauce and seasoned with turmeric, garlic, onions, ginger, and hot chili peppers. Rougail is a mixture of lemon, mango, peanut butter, tomato, cucumber, and onion, and they can be very spicy. Desserts are often seasonal fruits, but also cake specialties. For example, gâteau de patate, which is a sweet potato pie with white rum and condensed milk. And we have gâteau d'Ison, which is a cake made out of corn flour. Both can be served with chocolate sauces, whipped cream, guava, or papaya jam. And bonbon cravate, which are deep fried candies made with butter, flour, egg, salt, yeast, and orange blossom, coated with a syrup of water, honey, and vanilla extract. Or the bonbon miel. These small honey cakes are crispy on the outside and soft and syrupy on the inside. And lastly, the gâteau chemin de fer. The railway cake is basically flour, potato starch, and yeast, and is covered with vanilla cream and sprinkled with red-colored sugar.
some of the social justice issues that do happen on the island. One of the major issues would be poverty. 50% of the population on the island is under poverty line, and 60% of the population is on welfare in order to get basic needs met, such as water, food, being able to afford a house. And income is actually 27% less than a national average wage. Another huge social issue in the island would be the the racial wage gaps. The minimum wage is 10% less on the island than it is on mainland. And French immigrants hold the highest ranking positions in the island. Caucasian and Indian residents notably are wealthier than people who come from African descent. And usually people who sadly are unable to get jobs are people who are 15 to 25 years old. They have a really hard time finding employment, and most of the time they are homeless and sadly don't have enough money to pay for food, water, and resources. The average income is less than about $1,400 a month for everyone. So people who sadly fall into being victims of racial issues here in the island and make less than 1,400, because that's the most that that's the average of someone who is from French descent makes. So they make a little bit less, a lot less actually. And again, French immigrants hold most of the higher making positions, which means that they do get paid the most. People who have white ancestry or who don't come from ancestors who are people of color have a harder time getting more important high paying jobs.
In conclusion, La Reunion is a very, very interesting country. It's known for its sheer diversity in things like food, religion, culture, and the people that live there. Due to its long history of immigration, it allows for a very large variety of culture within the country. You would see that culture within things like food and the people and the history. La Reunion isn't without its problems. As mentioned earlier, there is wealth discrepancy and other various issues, but there's issues with every country in the world. I think the positives outweigh the negatives in a way. And the scenery you get when you see there, the food, the amazing culture it has, all make for it to be a pretty interesting and very well traversed country. I think it's definitely worth a visit, and it's definitely worth at least looking into. So thank you for listening to our presentation.